Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. I'm so glad you could join me today. Today we're looking at a bunch of new history titles. I've got some finished copies here. I've got some advanced reader copies for books that are coming out later next month. Tomorrow's already April 1st. Can't believe it. So I've got some April and a couple of May histories, and then I've got some books that are already out now. I've got some finished copies that I wanted to show you. As I've said before on this channel, I'm still in catch-up mode. I've got so many books to film, so I'm trying to get through the backlog. And shortly after this video, I'm going to be doing an epic new historical fiction book haul of sorts, but just wanted to put some new historical fiction titles on your radar. If you love historical fiction like I do, there's a lot of new cool stuff out right now. Okay, but I've got a big stack of books and I don't want this to be a 40-minute video. So without further ado, are you ready? Let's do it. Okay. Now this book came out in February. See, I told you I was behind. This came out February 11th. This is from Penguin Press, and this is The World After Gaza, a history by Pankaj Mishra. Let's see here. All right. From one of our most esteemed public intellectuals, Pankaj Mishra, this vital book has been described as a rare text. Courageous, embracing, learned, and ethical, rigorous, and mind-expanding. Wow, it's going to go into a lot of blurbs here, but let me try to get to the actual explanation of what this book is. Okay, so tons of blurbs, but here's the description. The post-war global order was in many ways shaped in response to the Holocaust. That event became the benchmark for atrocity and, in the Western imagination, the paradigmatic genocide. Its memory orients so much of our thinking and, crucially, forms the basic justification for Israel's right first to establish itself and then to defend itself. But in many parts of the world, ravaged by other conflicts and experiences of mass slaughter, the Holocaust's singularity is not always taken for granted, even when its hideous atrocity is. Outside of the West, Mishra argues the dominant story of the 20th century is that of decolonization. The World After Gaza takes the current war and the polarized reaction to it as the starting point for a broad reevaluation of two competing narratives of the last century. The global North's triumphant account of victory over totalitarianism and the spread of liberal capitalism, and the global South's hopeful vision of racial equality and freedom from colonial rule. At a moment when the world's balance of power is shifting, and the global North no longer commands ultimate authority, it is critically important that we understand how and why the two halves of the world are failing to talk to each other. Okay. Interesting. In this concise and powerful treatise, Mishra reckons with the fundamental questions posed by the ongoing crisis in the Middle East about whether some lives matter more than others, how identity is constructed, and what our responsibility as individuals and nations is to help others. All right. Well, I haven't had a chance to grapple with this one yet. The global North and the global South. I've only heard, and it's capitalized, global North, global South. Where have I heard those phrases before? Mostly in reference to, I don't know if they say global North, but they do, well, they say South. I'm thinking of like theology. I'm thinking of like Philip Jenkins's work, where he's studying Christianity as practiced throughout the world. And I think he's mentioned global South at one point. But I'm wondering what they mean here by global north and global south. Like Europe would be global north and global south would be Middle East, Africa, South America. I mean, I guess that's what they're going for. Anyway, this should be something. I'm sure I won't agree with everything in the book, but I'll probably agree with most of it. Most of it. Anyway, this is out right now from Penguin Press, The World After Gaza, A History. So check that out. Oh, and I was going to I ran out of time, guys. It's March 31st, and I did not get around to making a women's history video. I had some books set aside that kind of just focused on women and had stories about women, and I ran out of time. I had a lot of projects this month. Excuse me. But this is one of the books I wanted to highlight for Women's History Month, and it just sounds like a rootin' tootin' good story, and I do want to get this on my to be read pile next to my bed. I need to get this into circulation here. All right. Well, this book came out also in February, but let me get this up here. This is Paris Undercover, a wartime story of courage, friendship, and betrayal by Matthew Goodman. It says put out by Ballantine Books. This is the finished hardcover. Pretty good, sturdy book. So what do we have here? Paris Undercover. Etta Schreiber and Kate Bonfus, or Bonfus, are the unlikeliest of heroines. Two seemingly ordinary women, an American widow and an English divorcee, living quietly together in Paris. Yet during the Nazi occupation, these two friends find themselves unexpectedly plunged into the whirlwind of history. With the help of a French country priest and others, they set out to rescue British and French soldiers trapped behind enemy lines, some of whom they daringly smuggle through Nazi checkpoints hidden inside the trunk of their car. Oh, no kidding. Well, that's really risking it, isn't it? That's some courage. Ultimately, the Gestapo captures them both. After 18 months in prison, Etta is returned to the United States in a prisoner exchange. Back home, hoping to bring attention to her friend Kitty's bravery, she publishes a memoir about their work. Paris Underground becomes a publishing sensation. Oh, that's the name of the book. A memoir. Paris Underground. Oh, I've heard of that. Yes, Paris Underground becomes a publishing sensation and Etta a celebrity. Meanwhile, Kate spends the rest of the war, oh my gosh, in a Nazi prison, entirely unaware of the book that has been written about her and the deeds that have been claimed in her name. In researching, it is betrayal. In researching the story, Matthew Goodman uncovered military records and personal testimonies that reveal, for the first time, the shocking truth behind Etta's memoir, the unexpected, far-reaching consequences of its publication. More than just a story of two women's remarkable courage, Paris Undercover is a vivid, gripping account of deceit, betrayal, and personal redemption. Oh boy, Matthew Goodman. His name sounds very familiar. What else has he written? No, I guess I'm getting him confused with someone else. But anyway, this sounds really intriguing, and I have heard of the Paris Underground. So this is going to be good to know that maybe one of the women has been, was kind of kept out of it. So there's some publishing drama here. Was one of them taking credit for all of the actions? I don't know, because I haven't read Paris Underground. I've heard of it. I almost bought it once, but anyway, Paris Undercover. This is all about their story. This is out right now. All right, so I've got to get that into my mix at some point. Another book I wanted to show, finished copy of for Women's History Month, which I didn't get around to making that. This is the final copy, or finished copy, of Daughter of Daring. We've seen this before here. The trick riding, train leaping, road racing life of Helen Gibson, Hollywood's First Stunt Woman by Mallory O'Mara. This is put out by Hanover Square Press Books. And this is just looking like a good time here. I have the advanced reader copy, but it's nice to have the finished copy here with all the different photos. And again, this is a woman I didn't know anything about. And haven't had a chance to dip in yet, but look at her. Act 1. Helen Gibson. Riding wild. That's what I do. I ride wild. But I have shown this on the channel before, so this is from Hanover Square Press. This book is out right now if you want to check it out at your library. Could be there. This book came out last year sometime, and I missed it, but I still got a copy of it. So I'm glad. I wanted to show it because actually, there's always a serendipity usually about the things that I'm reading. And then I'll get a book and then it ties into it. And this is happening with this book. I just finished reading recently Admiral James Stavridis's first fiction work, The Restless Wave. And during the Guadalcanal campaign or the Solomon Islands campaigns, he's talking about this this mission that his character was on, and they kept referring to iron-bottom sound. And sure enough, look at this. We've got Midnight and Iron Bottom Sound, the harrowing World War II story of heroism in the shark-infested waters of Guadalcanal by Carol Engel Avriet. This is put out by Regnery History. Slim little volume, but that cover is all you need to see. That is, to me, is like my worst nightmare. Just the image right there. I don't like it. Sharks are the stuff of nightmare fuel for me. Yeah, so I was reading The Restless Wave, and they were mentioning Iron Bottom Sound, and then this is really cool. It ties into my reading, my fictional reading. Well, let's take a look at this. In the heart of the Pacific, where the tides of World War II surged, lies a tale of heroism on the high seas. A tale brought to life in Midnight and Iron Bottom Sound. This is the untold story of the USS Gregory, a ship manned by unknown sailors whose bravery echoes through the annals of history. Upon the decks of this vessel, Lieutenant Commander Harry F. Bauer and Mess Attendant Charles J. French, representing the highest and lowest ranks on the USS Gregory, become the focal points of this gripping narrative. In the turbulent waters of the Pacific, their stories, interwoven with the ship's saga, whose vital mission was to transport Marine raiders to bloody beaches, emerge as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unwavering commitment to duty. Carol Avriet unfolds a brief but catastrophic chapter of naval history that is often overlooked, recounting the unremitting warfare during the first few weeks following the initial invasion of the Solomon Islands to the demise of the USS Gregory 4 weeks later. Within this crucible, the Gregory, marked as a minor player, takes center stage. The ship's designation as an APD what does that stand for? Its brave crew and the harrowing night of terror they face set the stage for an unforgettable story. Okay. It didn't tell me what APD stands for, but anyway. Yeah. So this looks pretty good. I mean, I've cut my teeth in so many different stories on the USS Indianapolis, and I'm sure this happened more often than not. Any ship that went down, or cruisers, destroyers, whatever, in the South Pacific, you're going to be looking at a similar situation, but this will be a fast read. This is going to be, I'll read this over my lunch breaks for the next few days, and I'll be done with that baby. But out right now. Check it out if you're into that kind of stuff, as I am. We've seen this book on here before. I just wanted to show you. I've got a finished copy, and actually had a nice note from the author who read my review of it in Shelf Awareness. This is out right now. It just published last week. It's on sale March 4th. Okay, not last week. Gosh, the time is just flying by. But I got a finished copy, which is great because in my advanced review copy, I didn't have all these photos, these color photos in the inserts. But this is Death is Our Business, Russian Mercenaries and the New Era of Private Warfare by John Lechner. Tons of blurbs, advanced blurbs on the back. This was a very revealing book for me. I knew of Prigozhin, his status as like Putin's chef, and all this kind of stuff. And then he this is about the Wagner group. Sorry. And just some of the other places, how it stood up, how it was stood up, where it went, where it fought. It wasn't just in Ukraine. They were in Africa. But anyway, it's just like the era of private warfare is here in a sense, is what Lechner is getting at, and it's chilling. It's really chilling. Let me go ahead and read a little bit of this to you. But yeah, it's about the Wagner Group. In 2014, a mysterious band of mercenaries arrived in Ukraine, part of Russia's first attempt to claim the country as its own. Upon ceasefire, the Wagner Group faded back into shadow, only to reemerge in the Middle East, where they'd go toe-to-toe with the U.S., and in Africa, where they'd earn praise for tough measures against insurgencies, yet spark outrage for looting, torture, and civilian deaths. As Russia gained influence abroad, Wagner founder Yevgeny Prigozhin, known as Putin's chef, went from caterer to commander to single greatest threat Putin has faced in his over 20-year rule. In this trailblazing and courageous account of the Wagner Group's origins and operations, John Lechner, the only journalist to report across its many war zones, and there are some harrowing moments in here, folks. I told John when he had messaged me on Facebook, and I was just like, there was a part in there, and I don't want to give it away, but I was just like, I was really worried for you, bro. And he goes, no kidding. Yes, the courage to be in these places and to talk to these people that he did, and some of them very dangerous. And yeah, there were some close moments in here. So he brings us on the ground to witness Wagner partner with fragile nation states, score access to natural resources, oust peacekeeping missions, and cash in on conflicts reframed as Kremlin interests. After rebelling, Prigozhin faced an epic demise, but Wagner lives on. Its political, business, and military ventures a pillar of Russian operations worldwide. Yeah, so I can recommend this book. I have read it, and I've written a review on it for Shelf Awareness. You can follow all my reviews. Here comes my spiel. If you follow me on social, Instagram, Facebook, so the other one, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Threads, I'm on all of it. But I will post my reviews, and gosh, I'm about 7 or 8 posts behind. I need an assistant to help me post all my. I gotta start using AI to like push out my just my social media posts, but I'll figure it out. I've just got to be more effective with my time. So anyway, Death is Our Business. Check this out, guys, from John Lechner. I'm just fascinated about, as you know, I'm a military history geek, and I should say this is from Bloomsbury, the great folks at Bloomsbury. Military history geek, as you well know on this channel, and just the state of warfare, the evolving nature of war, strategy, tactics, technology. You got the gal right here. I'm very interested in all that. I think I've shown this book on here before, and this one has been out a while, so I'm going to leave it over here. All right. This is a book that I had seen at the time when it came out in hardcover. Okay, so right now they're announcing that it's out in paperback in April. But the publisher at Bloomsbury, good people at Bloomsbury, sent me the hardcover, just as a way to help let you guys know the paperback is coming out for like $20, April 22nd from Bloomsbury. But I had been wanting to read this book. I read really great reviews of it, I think in Wall Street Journal and a couple of other places. But this is Anansi's Gold, the man who looted the West, outfoxed Washington, and swindled the world, by Yipoka Yibo. Again, so this is coming out in paperback April 22nd. Yeah, so Anansi's Gold. Oh, let's get into this. When Ghana won its independence from Britain in 1957, it instantly became a target for homegrown opportunists and rapacious Western interests, determined to snatch any assets that colonialism hadn't already stripped. A CIA-funded military junta ousted the new nation's inspiring president, Kwame Nkrumah, then falsely accused him of hiding the country's gold overseas. Into this big lie stepped one of history's most charismatic scammers, a con man to rival the trickster god Anansi. Born into poverty in Ghana and trained in the United States, John Akable Miza declared himself custodian of an alleged Nkrumah trust fund worth billions. You too could claim a piece if only you would invest in Blay Miza's fictitious efforts to release the equally fictitious fund. Over the 1970s and 80s, he and his accomplices, including Ghanaian state officials and Nixon's former attorney general, scammed hundreds of millions of dollars out of thousands of believers. Blay Miza lived in luxury, deceiving Philadelphia lawyers, London financiers, and Seoul businessmen alike, all while eluding his FBI pursuers. American prosecutors called his scam, quote, one of the most fascinating and lucrative in modern history, end quote. Oh, so in this book, Yipoka Yibo chases Blay Miza's ever wilder trail and discovers, at long last, what really happened to Ghana's missing wealth. She unfolds a riveting account of Cold War entanglements, international finance, and post-colonial betrayal, revealing how what we call history writes itself into being, one lie at a time. Fascinating. Okay, so yeah, I've been meaning to check this one out. Look at this, that a big cigar, man. That is our dude right there on top. Anyway, and I've always been intrigued by like contemporary African. I enjoy African history. I enjoy contemporary stuff going on. This is slightly going back to the 70s and 80s, but it sounds really juicy. And that is coming out in paperback if you guys are interested. April 22nd. From Bloomsbury. Let me get rid of that. Thank you. Okay. So let's switch over. Oh, no. Hang on. I got one more. Now, this book came out in January, but I got a copy because I've got an upcoming... I have a very recent book haul from Hamilton book I need to film. I went ahead and pulled the trigger on a bunch of books. So much for me, listen. It was kind of like just a time frame in my mind. I was just like, I'm just going to do it. It's because it's going to make me feel better just for the moment. Listen, I'm aware of the psychological, nuances, the little clicks, the little mouse hitting the button for more cheese. That's me with the book order. Okay. But anyway, in that book haul, I'm going to have the first volume to go with this book, which came out in January from Pegasus Books. And I'm fascinated on the topic of the mafia. But I didn't even know about these books until I saw the first book that was marked down on Hamilton Book. So I ordered that one. But this is the second volume. And it's part of a trilogy, so I'll be all ready to go when the third book comes out. But this is Louis Ferrante's, his Borgata, Clash of Titans, A History of the American Mafia, Volume 2 of the Borgata trilogy. So this one is Clash of Titans. The first book and the one I ordered from Hamilton Book is called Rise of Empire. But yes, let's get that too here. So he's going to have a 3-part history, obviously, with the trilogy. It says here, I'll give you some background on the trilogy. This epic 3-volume history of the Mafia continues with Borgata, Clash of Titans, covering 1960 to 1985, as the mob comes into conflict with the American political elite and confronts internal wars that will shake the organization to its foundations. The first serious external threat to the Mafia's existence in America comes from U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, who repeatedly expresses his desire to eradicate organized crime in America. Kennedy unleashes the full force of the U.S. Justice Department, including a slumbering FBI that Kennedy will drag into the fray, to the apparent dismay of longtime FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The Mafia's unforgiving response is executed by Louisiana Don Carlos Marcello, along with Florida Don Santo Trafficante, who together take aim at the Attorney General's brother, the President of the United States. Look at this now. With the President dead and the Attorney General out of office, things return to normal for the mob. Normal. But internal problems begin to appear within a number of Borgatas, shaking the Mafia to its core. Mobster Joe Velacchi becomes the first ever public informant when he testifies before a Senate subcommittee, while Brooklyn mobsters Larry, Albert, and Crazy Joe Gallo launch an insurrection against the founder and leader of their Borgata, Joe Profaci. While the Gallo-Profaci civil war is winding down, Don Joe Bonanno challenges the Mafia's ruling body, the Commission, in a situation that decides if the Commission's central authority can overpower the autonomy of each individual boss. As he did in the first volume of this epic history, Louis Ferrante continues to debunk myths while adding new insights into other Mafia mysteries, such as the feud between Mafia capo Anthony Tony Provenzano and Union leader Jimmy Hoffa, revealing the most plausible scenario of why Hoffa died, how he was killed, and what happened to his body. Interesting. Who is Louis Ferrante? Louis Ferrante is a former Mafia associate and heist expert who served 8 years in prison after refusing to incriminate his fellow Gambino family members. Okay, yeah, he wrote another book before the first volume of this, which was called Mob Rules, international bestseller. But yeah, I mean, I grew up watching Godfather, loved Goodfellas, of course, Sopranos. I'm so down with Mafia history and stuff. I don't know why. I just am. So this is the second book in the trilogy. I just thought this might be an interesting book to show. I don't know how many of you are aware of this trilogy. The first book, which I'll be showing in my book haul as soon as I can get that massive box up the stairs. Probably came out a couple years before this one. I mean, this one just published a couple months ago. But, and I'm sure Volume 3 will include Gotti and all that kind of good stuff. But, yeah, Borgata. So I'm excited. You'll see the first volume in my... I'm going to read that one first, obviously, and then I'll be leaning into Clash of Titans, and hopefully next year we'll have Volume 3 out. But who doesn't love a 3-volume history of the American Mafia? Bring it on, I say. Bring it on. So this one's out now if you want to look it up. Okay, now we're moving into books that have not been published yet. We've got a book coming up here in a couple weeks. Some good, juicy history that I love. And I have the other book by this author. Has he written more than one? Yes, Washington's End and The Man Who Would Not Be Washington, which was about Robert E. Lee. I have both those books. But this is a new book by Jonathan Horn, coming out April 15th from Scribner. And this is The Fate of the Generals, MacArthur, Wainwright, and the Epic Battle for the Philippines. Let's see here. For the doomed stand American forces made in the Philippines at the start of World War II, two generals received their country's highest military award, the Medal of Honor. One was the charismatic and controversial Douglas MacArthur, whose orders forced him to leave his soldiers on the islands to starvation and surrender, but whose vow to return echoed around the globe. The other was the gritty Jonathan Mayhew Wainwright, who became a hero to the troops, whose fate he insisted on sharing even when it meant becoming the highest-ranking American prisoner of the Japanese. Now that's leadership, folks. We just don't see anything, not even a simulacrum of that. Nothing. We don't see leadership like this. And I'm not just talking in the military. We don't see it anywhere anymore. In The Fate of the Generals, best-selling author Jonathan Horn brings together the story of two men who received the same medal but found honor on very different paths. MacArthur's journey would require a daring escape with his wife and young child to Australia, and then years of fighting over the thousands of miles needed to make it back to the Philippines, where he would fulfill his famous vow, only to see the city he called home burn. Wainwright's journey would take him from the Philippines to Taiwan and Manchuria, as his captors tortured him in prisons and left him to wonder whether his countrymen would ever understand the choice he had made to surrender for the sake of his men. A story of war made personal based on meticulous research into diaries and letters, including boxes of previously unexplored papers. The Fate of the Generals is a vivid account that raises timely questions about how we define honor and choose our heroes. It is destined to become a classic of World War II history. Well, that's pretty bold. That's a pretty bold statement. It's destined to become a classic of World War II history. But I like the angle. It's fresh. It's a new type of instead of just a recounting of the importance of a campaign in the Philippines or a battle or whatnot. This is a very different type of story. Very individualistic. Two separate journeys. And what does honor mean? This is going to be good. This is going to be great. I feel like it will be. So this is one I'm going to see if I can report back on. I'm still trying to figure out how to squeeze in some other videos where I'm actually following up on stuff. Now, my written reviews are my follow-up, and I hope many of you follow me on social media to get those alerts and to check out my reviews. And I always tell you where you can find them. Because I review a lot of books. I just don't do them. I don't do them on this channel just because, a lot of times I receive, I receive payment for those reviews, and so it belongs to someone else. You know what I'm saying? So, but I do want to read some books that are just for this channel and get back to you on them. But anyway. This sounds really good. So check out The Fate of the Generals, coming April 15th from Scribner. This one is a bound galley. I think I have it up on my my screen so I can read the description. This one also comes out April 22nd. This comes from another book from Hanover Square Press. And this one is called You Have Unleashed a Storm. Okay, that light. You Have Unleashed a Storm, New York City's Descent into Chaos During America's Most Explosive Era of Radical Violence, by David Viola. So what's this about? This is the panoramic, untold story of domestic terrorism and political radicalism in 1960s and 70s New York City and its echoes in our current moment. Okay, so New York City in the 1960s was the beating heart of the United States, a global metropolis thriving on its abundance and diversity. But in a short time, Gotham went through an extraordinary transition. The post-war golden years gave way to a frantic era of social, political, racial, and economic turmoil. Groups with their own distinct ideological aims gained a presence in the city, and with this frenzied new era came a new wave of violence. Terrorism has had an impact on the course of U.S. history far greater and for far longer than is commonly understood. So says the description here. The ripple effects of this largely forgotten moment, and importantly, how the authorities countered, have played a significant role in how contemporary American life has unfolded. Okay, this is a groundbreaking account of New York City's divergent radical groups that brings to light a candid picture of remarkable people in a remarkable setting. So let's see here. New York City. I wonder if the weather in New York. I was just gonna say, like, that's one of the chapters here. I was like, they gotta talk about the weathermen, right? And then they have a whole chapter called "The Weather in New York," so that's got to be a sly nod to that. The weather in New York. Part 3, A Decade of Terror. Fantastic. Just what I want to read. Part 2, The Revolution is Now. You dig? All right, so that's going to be interesting. Radical politics, radical movements in terrorism in the 60s and 70s of New York. Check it out. April 22nd from Hanover Square Press and David Viola. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about this. Okay, let me put that down for a second. It might come to me. Let me take a sip here of my superfood latte. London Fog superfood latte from Clever Blends. Delicious. I have become addicted to Clever Blends. I do not receive a commission at all. I'm not. This is just me just sharing with you that I've come to really love these drinks. A bunch of superfoods in them and stuff. Love it. Oh, now this is the book everyone's talking about on book 2 when it comes to history. Everyone's waiting for this book. I managed to get an arc of it. Oh, this is, of course, Rick Atkinson's second book in the American Revolutionary Trilogy. The Revolution Trilogy. The Fate of the Day, my folks. It's coming out April 29th. From Crown Publishing. So this is The Fate of the Day. This is the second book. And the subtitle is The War for America. Fort Ticonderoga to Charleston, 1777 to 1780. I think the first one was called The British Are Coming. All right. And this is pretty thick. It's gonna be a meaty read. It's gonna take a little while to get through this one. The first 21 months of the American Revolution was the story of a ragged group of militiamen and soldiers fighting to forge a new nation. Excuse me. By the winter of 1777, the Continental Army could claim only that it had barely. Okay, there's some typos in this jacket copy. I can't. There's someone screwed up that writing. I can't read. It had barely been annihilated by the world's most. Listen, let me move on. 2 years into the war, George III is as determined as ever to bring his rebellious colonies to heel. But the king's task is now exponentially more complicated. Fighting a determined enemy on the other side of the Atlantic has become ruinously expensive, and spies tell him that the French and Spanish are threatening to join forces with the Americans. Prize-winning historian Rick Atkinson provides riveting narrative covering the middle years of the Revolution. Let's see. Stationed in Paris, Benjamin Franklin woos the French. In Pennsylvania, George Washington pleads with Congress to deliver the money, men, and material he needs to continue the fight. In New York, General William Howe, the commander of the greatest army the British have ever sent overseas, plans a new campaign against the Americans. The months and years that follow bring epic battles in Saratoga, Monmouth, and Savannah, a winter of misery at Valley Forge, and yet more appeals for sacrifice by every American committed to the struggle for freedom. So, and it says here, timed to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the beginning of the Revolution, Atkinson's brilliant account of the lethal conflict between the Americans and the British offers not only deeply researched and spectacularly dramatic history, but also a fresh perspective of the demands that a democracy makes on each of its citizens. So, wonderful. Without notes, this is over 600 pages. So, the fate of the day, coming up real soon. Everyone, like I said, everyone's been buzzing about it on BookTube. Seen it on many different channels. Happy to get an advanced review copy myself. So thank you, Crown Publishing, for this chance to read this in review somewhere. All right. Oh, here's a book I missed. It was out earlier this month. Well, it's still March. Interesting. Okay, paperwork here. It's another new book from Scribner, and this is Outmaneuvered: America's Tragic Encounter with Warfare from Vietnam to Afghanistan by James A. Warren. Again, this came out March 4th. Since the early 1960s, the United States has fought in 4 major wars and a cluster of complicated and bloody irregular warfare campaigns. The majority have ended in failure or something close to it. Why has the U.S. been so ineffective despite the American armed forces being universally recognized as the best in the world? Okay, most scholars and analysts believe that the primary cause of our abysmal war records since Vietnam has been the U.S. military's overwhelmingly conventional approach to conflict, which favors kinetic operations, highly mobile precision firepower, and sophisticated systems of command and control. Here, James Warren argues that a much more formidable obstacle to success has been pervasive strategic ineptitude at the highest levels of decision-making, including the presidency, the National Security Council, and the foreign policy community in D.C. Okay. Time and time again, American presidents have committed military forces to operations in foreign countries whose politics and cultures they did not fully understand. True. I agree with that. Presidents of both political parties, including Johnson, Reagan, Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama, have overestimated the capacity of U.S. forces to alter the social and political landscape of foreign nations. True. And underestimated the ability of insurgents and terrorists to develop effective, protracted war strategies that in time sap Washington's will to carry on the fight. Yes and no. Yes and no. I've got some opinions on this. In the War on Terror, Warren asserts that senior military officers have been complicit in extending bankrupt strategies by refusing to speak truthfully about them to their civilian bosses. So have the American people, who lost interest in the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq and refused to press their president and Congress to bring an end to 2 futile conflicts. Warren advocates for a less hubristic foreign policy and a broader conception of warfare as a political and military enterprise. You see, for readers of political, military, and U.S. history, that would be me, as well as anyone interested in international relations and geopolitical strategy, also me, this book offers unparalleled insights into America's prior and potentially future military conflicts. This is a topic I definitely want to be engaging in here. I read a lot of history in my lifetime, military history in my lifetime, particularly, American military forces, our evolving strategy, all this kind of just nerdy stuff. I've gobbled it up, and well, let's see what he's going to say here, because I agreed with 2 of those premises, and somewhat, but with a caveat on the third. Yeah, but I can get into it more maybe when I maybe circle back and talk about this if anyone is interested. Outmaneuvered. I like it. That sounds really good. What do you guys think? It's out right now from Scribner. Check it out. Two more books here I'm going to show you, and then I'll wrap it up. This one's coming out in May, so we've got a little bit of time. End of May, May 27th. This is a book from Caliber Publishing. This is another author. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't remember. Shoot for the Moon. Okay, this is Nothing But Courage. The 82nd Airborne's daring D-Day mission, adding to my D-Day library, and their heroic charge across the Lafayette Bridge by James Donovan. Okay, guys. Again, Caliber Books comes out on May 27th. This is just the advanced copy anyway, but ooh, there they go. Let's see here. In June 1944, I don't know what sound I just made there. That's like 46 minutes. No one's going to watch this video. Okay, I might have to save this last book for another video because we're going over. Let's see here. June 1944, German and American forces converged on an insignificant bridge a few miles inland from the invasion beaches. If taken by the Nazis, the bridge might have gone down in history as the reason the Allies failed on D-Day. The narrow road over it was each side's conduit to victory. Continued Nazi control over the bridge near an old manoir known as Lafayette, one of only two bridges in the region capable of supporting tanks and other heavy armor, would allow the Germans to reinforce their defenses at Utah Beach, one of the 5 landing areas chosen for Operation Overlord, the code name for the Allied invasion of Normandy. Okay, but because control of the bridge was also essential to moving U.S. troops inland and off the beach, it could not simply be destroyed. It had to be taken and held by the Allies. This was part of the formidable mission of the 82nd Airborne, whose lightly armed but superbly trained troopers had dropped behind and into German lines 5 hours before the seaborne assault on Utah. You want to talk about the stones that it took for those men to do that. And I'm sure they were all terrified. But that takes courage. You can be you can be scared, but you're still courageous as hell because you're doing something that's terrifying you. You've got stones. God bless these men. While blocking enemy reinforcements, they had to seize and secure avenues of approach from the beaches to the interior of Normandy, including 2 bridges over the modest Mer d'Ere. I can't pronounce French names. I am sorry. Mer d'Ere River and the key crossroads village of... I do know how to pronounce this thanks to my good friend, Colonel Keith Nightingale. We had a great discussion about D-Day in his book. We have an interview. Check out my playlist of author interviews, and you'll see one with Colonel Keith Nightingale. It's fantastic. But Saint Mary Église, I know how to pronounce that thanks to Keith, because he referred to Saint Mary Église quite a few times. Anyway, failure would give Hitler enough time and opportunity to build up the resources necessary to defeat the invasion and turn the tide for the Nazis. The village was taken early on D-Day, and the 82nd endured repeated attacks by much larger German forces. But the bridge at Lafayette became a bloody 3-day standoff against tanks and artillery that culminated in a near-suicidal charge across it, and the narrow 500-yard causeway beyond, straight into the teeth of a fierce German defense ordered to hold it to the last man. Wow. Damn, all these books sound so good. I just don't... which one do I start first? I've got The Fate of the Generals. I've got this Outmaneuvered that is really just... really looking at my... I'm really ready to go with that one. And then we've got The Fate of the Day. We've got American Revolution. But D-Day, man, it's calling my name. And look at that great photo of these guys. Fantastic. What do I dive into first? I don't know. But I wanted to make you guys aware This one's coming out May 27th from Caliper Books. So check that out. All right. Well, that gets you caught up on some more of our April and May books, and you got to see some of the other ones that are finished and that are out right now. I hope something here perked your interest. Add some to your TBR lists. We all have our TBR problems. More money, more problems, more books, more. They're not problems. I'm not going to call them problems. I'm going to just say challenges and trying to fit them into my reading schedule, my schedule, if you will. Wow, I'm at 50 minutes. I really got to just kick it out of here, guys. Thanks for hanging with me on this extra long video. I knew it was long. I didn't mean to be this long. But it's been well over a week or more since my live stream with Bill. And I'm trying to get these videos up and on a more regular basis now that I'm back to work and stuff. So thanks for joining me, BookTube. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If you're new to the channel, welcome. It's not all history here. I sometimes do, I'll mention lots of different fiction. I like mysteries, thrillers, horror from time to time. And, we talk about just about a little bit of everything here, but mostly history. So thanks for joining me here at the History Shelf. And until next time, everybody, take care out there. Be safe. Be kind. Bye-bye.